The last bus dropped Ion a kilometer away from Blackwave Bay, the place he had always heard about in childhood warnings but never dared to visit. Legends said the sea here wasn't just deep, it was alive. The air held weight as he walked the lonely path surrounded by crooked coastlines and wind-bent trees that looked like frozen figures mid-scream. It was nearly 8 p.m. when the sky had already surrendered its final light. The road sloped downward toward the beach, revealing the vast stretch of dark sand. Blackwave Bay was enormous, quiet, suffocatingly quiet. No distant chatter of fishermen, no engine hum of boats, not even gulls. It was unnatural for a coastal area to be so lifeless. Ion stepped onto the sand, feeling a strange vibration underneath his feet, as if the ground itself were breathing. The shoreline was covered in rocks, jagged, uneven, some shaped like human faces if stared at long enough. He shivered. The sea lay in the distance, vast and black, reflecting almost nothing. The moon overhead seemed dimmer near the water, as though its light was being swallowed. Even the stars above appeared muted. The water didn't shine, it absorbed. Above the cliffs stood the old lighthouse, its tower gray and broken, missing huge chunks of its structure. And yet, something flickered weakly inside. Not bright enough to be an operational light, but just enough to flash like a dying flame. Someone must be in there. But the lighthouse had been abandoned for more than 20 years after several disappearances. Everyone said the inside smelled of death and rot. No one lived there. No one should. Ion's heart thumped faster. Then who lit the light? He dropped his backpack near a rock and looked around. The silence was so heavy it pressed against his ears. Even the soft breeze felt unnaturally cold on his neck. He walked closer to the shoreline, watching the waves approach and retreat in slow motion, as if unsure whether to welcome him or drag him in. Something about the rhythm was wrong. Waves didn't behave like this. They came too slow, lingered too long, and retreated as if something huge beneath them was breathing. Ion crouched and touched the water. It was shockingly warm, warmer than the air. A faint metallic smell rose from it like rust or blood. His fingers tingled. A slight sting pricked his skin, but when he pulled back, his hand was clean. No wounds, no marks. But the water left behind a faint black shimmer on his fingertips. His heart pounded. Something about Blackwave Bay wasn't just unsettling, it was wrong, deeply wrong. And then he heard it. A faint whisper carried by the breeze, indistinguishable yet undeniably human. It came from the direction of the lighthouse. His chest tightened. Someone or something had noticed him, and the sea, eerily calm and black, seemed to lean closer. As if observing, waiting, the horror of Blackwave Bay had just begun. He didn't notice the fog at first. It came quietly, like a thief slipping through an open window. Without sound, without warning. Within minutes, the shoreline vanished behind a thick curtain of gray. The fog moved unnaturally, curling, twisting, forming faint shapes that looked like distorted limbs reaching out. Ion felt the temperature drop sharply. The air became damp and heavy, sticking to his skin like cold breath. He called out, "Hello, anybody here?" His voice bounced back, muffled and hollow, as if swallowed. The fog didn't only block vision, it absorbed sound. A shadow shifted to his left. Ion snapped around, flashlight trembling in his hand, but nothing, just fog. Then another shadow behind him. He spun again, nothing. He tried to steady his breathing, but the fog moved closer, brushing against his cheeks like icy fingers. The waves behind him changed their tone, no longer soft. They became deeper, heavier, more rhythmic, almost like breathing. The water thumped against the rocks in a slow, powerful pulse. Thump, thump, thump. Ion frowned. "Is that the tide?" No, the sound was too steady, too deliberate. His flashlight flickered. The mist thickened until he couldn't see his own hand clearly. Shapes moved in the fog, some small, quick, others slow and tall, towering in the distance. The whispers began again. Louder this time, not words, impressions, not voices, warnings. He felt something brush past his leg. A cold, slimy sensation. He froze, shined his light. Nothing was there. But the wet sand beneath his shoe rippled, as if something beneath had moved. Ion backed away, pulse racing. "This place is messed up," he whispered. Then a deep sound echoed through the fog, distant but powerful. A groan, a rumble, like a massive creature shifting beneath the water. Ion swallowed. Hard, he wasn't just standing at a beach. He was standing on the feeding ground of something old, something alive, something aware. The fog parted slightly and revealed the faint outline of the wooden pier in the distance. It stretched into the black water like a skeletal finger pointing toward the unknown. For a reason he couldn't explain, Ion felt drawn to it, as if the pier, and whatever lay beneath it, had been waiting. His breathing grew shallow as he stepped forward. The fog closed behind him like a door, sealing off any retreat. And Blackwave Bay whispered, soft, hungry, alive. The pier looked ancient, half-rotten, parts of it missing, some boards warped and bowed like broken ribs. Ion hesitated at the base of it. The fog clung to the wood, dripping like ghostly tears. He stepped onto the first plank. It groaned so loudly he flinched. A step behind him. Not a sound of wood, but the sound of sand, soft and deliberate. Ion turned fast, flashlight raised, no one was there. But fresh footprints appeared in the sand. Right behind him, footprints that hadn't been there seconds ago. His blood ran cold. The whispers grew louder, forming faint words. He's here. He hears us. He came. Ion's throat tightened. Who's there? The footprints didn't move again, but they were deep, too deep for a human foot. Almost clawed. He took a shaky step backward onto the pier. The boards trembled, soft vibrations passing through them. The water beneath churned with slow, swirling movements. Something massive swam underneath. He couldn't see it clearly, but the dark shapes shifted like shadows of giants. He inched forward. Suddenly, a loud thud beneath the pier made him jump. Something hit the underside, hard. The entire pier shuddered. Ion fell to his knees, gripping the railing. His flashlight slipped. He caught it just in time. He aimed the light down between the planks. Two dark shapes moved beneath the water, huge, slow, hunting. Then something long and pale drifted to the surface near him. A hand, swollen, waterlogged, fingers curled, the sleeve of a yellow jacket attached to it. Ion gasped. Oh my God! It wasn't floating naturally, it was being lifted. Held up for him to see, then it vanished, pulled violently downward into the depths. He stumbled backward, nearly falling through a broken plank. The fog thickened again, swirling around him like a living thing. The footsteps returned on the sand. He heard them clearly this time. Soft, slow, approaching. He turned, the fog parted. A tall shadow stood at the start of the pier, not human. Longer, thinner, with limbs slightly too crooked, head slightly too tilted. Ion blinked. The figure dissolved back into the fog. His heartbeat hammered painfully. The sea groaned beneath him, long, deep, and almost mournful, as if whatever was under there wanted him to feel its pain or hunger. He backed away until his heel touched the last few boards. Ahead of him, the lighthouse loomed in the distance like a silent watcher. Something inside whispered to him, calling. He turned toward it, unable to resist, and the pier behind him stopped creaking, stopped moving, stopped reacting. As if the ocean knew he had chosen his next step, Ion moved down the pier slowly, each step inviting a new creak or groan. The water slapped the wooden posts with a thick, almost sticky sound. Shapes swam underneath him, not fish, not anything normal. Large silhouettes twisted, turning in spirals as if circling prey. The boards beneath him vibrated. The ocean was moving with intention. As he reached the end of the pier, the fog parted slightly, revealing the lighthouse more clearly. The flickering light in the tower blinked off, then on, as if signaling him or warning him. At the far edge of the pier, Ion found a rusty lantern, still warm. Someone had been here recently, or something. The rusted railing was covered in deep scratches, long, parallel gouges, claw marks, not human, not animal either. He ran his fingers over them. They were fresh. The wood splintered recently. Suddenly, a loud splash behind him. He spun. A humanoid shadow rose out of the water. Tall, thin, too thin, limbs elongated like seaweed stretching. Eyes glowing faintly beneath a dripping coat of sea slime. It didn't climb onto the pier. It floated just a few inches above the water. Watching him, Ion froze. His flashlight trembled badly. He couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. The figure tilted its head sideways, unnaturally far, as if studying him. Then it slipped silently beneath the water without a ripple. He staggered backward, heart ready to burst. He had seen enough. He had to leave. But when he turned, the fog behind him had thickened into a wall. The path back to shore was gone. Completely swallowed, he was trapped. Behind him, the lighthouse flickered again, once, twice, almost impatiently. He had no choice. He took a shaky breath and started toward the cliff path leading up to the lighthouse. And the ocean, suddenly quiet, watched him leave. The climb up to the lighthouse felt endless. The fog clung to him in heavy coils, whispering in his ears. The rocks were damp and sharp, cutting his hands as he crawled up sections of the narrow, crumbling path. Every few steps, he felt the ground vibrate, slow, rhythmic, like the heartbeat of something huge beneath the surface. The lighthouse door stood slightly open. A faint yellow glow flickered inside. Ion stepped in, and the smell hit him immediately: salt, rot, old wood, and something metallic like dried blood. The walls were covered in salt markings, symbols, patterns, spirals resembling tidal waves swallowing entire villages. Some symbols looked newer, scratched frantically into the walls. Messages, please. Help MEIT knows I'm here, don't listen to the sea, don't look at the water, don't answer. When it calls your name, a chill crawled through Ion's spine. Inside the center of the room hung a cracked lantern on a chain. It swung slowly even though there was no wind inside. The shadows it cast twisted in unnatural directions, as if the light inside was bent or corrupted. Then, from the top of the lighthouse, he heard footsteps. Slow, heavy, dragging. Ion swallowed. Hello? No reply. Only the dragging steps moved closer. He climbed the spiral staircase, every board groaning. The air grew colder. His breath became visible. He reached the top. The room was empty, the windows broken. The lantern flickering weakly, but the footsteps, they were still there, right behind him. Ion spun nothing. Then the whispers became clearer, direct, targeted his name. Ion, come to the water. It's waiting. He backed against the wall, trembling. The sea outside crashed harder than before. And then he saw it, through the broken window, in the water far below. A towering humanoid shape rising slowly from the sea, limbs long and dripping, torso glistening black. Head crowned with barnacles, its eyes, glowing faintly blue, locked directly onto him. Ion gasped and fell backward onto the floor. The sea was calling him, and it had eyes. And hunger, the tide surged unnaturally high, slamming against the rocks and climbing the cliff walls. The windows rattled violently. Ion tried to leave the lighthouse, but the fog had formed a wall outside the door, dense, opaque, pulsating like a living creature. The whispers grew louder, angrier, demanding. The sea outside began to glow faintly blue, as if lit from beneath by something massive. Ion felt every instinct scream at him to run, but where? He backed into the corner of the lighthouse room, gripping the railing, trying to steady his breathing. Then, below the cliff, massive shapes moved through the glowing water. Not one, not two, dozens, long limbs, twisting bodies. Eyes glowing like underwater lanterns. He finally understood the sea wasn't haunted. It was alive, and full of creatures older than the land itself. The lighthouse trembled, the sea roared. A chilling, guttural sound echoed from the cavern beneath the cliff. The tentacles of shadow rose first. Then the humanoid forms, climbing, reaching. One shape appeared fully, standing on the rocks below. Its skin shimmered like wet obsidian. Its eyes glowed, its jaw unhinged slightly when it breathed. Ion screamed involuntarily. The creature froze, then turned its head sharply toward him, as if the sound had summoned it. A slow, deliberate smile stretched across its too wide jaw. Ion stumbled backward, but the room was small. He hit the wall. The creature began climbing the cliff. Ion stumbled backward as the fog thickened around him, turning the world into a suffocating gray prison. But this time something new emerged, a deep horn echoing across the coastline. It wasn't the lighthouse. It wasn't wind. It sounded like a ship. From the Black Sea, a massive silhouette rose slowly, like a sleeping giant awakening after centuries underwater. The fog shifted, revealing the decaying hull of an old iron ship, half-rotted, half-submerged, yet impossibly towering. The name on the side was barely readable beneath rust and seaweed. The DROWNED Star. Ion froze. This ship had disappeared decades ago. Locals said it sank with its entire crew, no bodies ever found. But now it moved, alive, summoned. The ship groaned as metal plates scraped against each other. Lantern lights flickered on the deck, though no living soul could possibly be aboard. Chains dragged across the wood with slow, heavy clanks like something enormous pacing. A ramp lowered from the deck without anyone touching it. A silent invitation. Or a trap. Ion wanted to run, but the tide surged behind him like a hand pushing him forward. His legs moved against his will as the fog parted, creating a path directly toward the towering ship. On deck, dark figures stood, motionless silhouettes, not human. Their bodies dripped seawater that pooled unnaturally around their feet. Their eyes glowed a faint, sickly blue like drowned souls waiting. Ion heard something behind him. Hassan. He turned just in time to see Hassan's half-drowned corpse climbing the ramp, eyes pale and lifeless, mouth hanging open as seawater spilled out. Hassan lifted an arm and pointed directly at Ion. The figures on deck leaned forward, swaying like puppets pulled by unseen strings. The ship groaned again, this time in a voice deep and monstrous, speaking from the hull itself. "Aboard a we remember you." Ion's heart hammered. His breath broke. His scream died before it could escape. The drowned ship had claimed its next passenger. Ion found himself on the deck of the drowned Star, though he had no memory of stepping aboard. The boards beneath his feet pulsed like a heartbeat. The air smelled of death, rot, and thousands of gallons of trapped seawater. He could hear them. Whispers of sailors, crying, begging, laughing in madness, echoing through the metal walls like spirits stuck in rust. The ship began moving, without crew, without sails, without any logical force, cutting through the black water at impossible speed. The shoreline vanished behind him. Only the endless, silent ocean remained. Ion stumbled toward the railing, but the sea below wasn't normal water. It churned like boiling ink. Faces rose and sank, carved in agony, trying to scream through the liquid darkness. Everywhere he looked, drowned people clung to the ship's sides, trying to climb aboard, begging for rescue even as their skin melted like wax. Their fingers scraped across the metal hull, leaving trails of black slime. A loud bell rang. The drowned crew turned toward him, one by one, in perfect unison. Their jaws dropped open far wider than human anatomy allowed. From their throats came a gurgling, rising howl. Ion backed away but hit the mast, cold, wet, and beating like flesh. The ship spoke again, this time in many voices layered as one. "We sail forever. You sail with US." The deck split open beneath Ion, revealing a swirling abyss of water and screaming faces. Hands shot up, grabbing him, freezing, slimy, unbreakable. He was pulled down, deeper, deeper still. Into the ship's stomach of drowned souls, the lid of the ship closed above him. The ocean went silent. By morning, villagers saw a distant silhouette of a massive ship far out on the horizon, though no ships had sailed those waters in years. Some swear they still hear voices carried by the wind, screams, begging, Ion, Hassan, and a whisper that chills the spine. We are still sailing. 2 weeks had passed since the night the drowned star appeared off the coast, yet the villagers of Blackwave Bay still whispered about the screams that echoed across the water. Stories spread like wildfire. Some claimed they heard a ship's horn in the dead of night. Others swore they saw pale blue lights flickering on the horizon, though no vessel sailed there. But no one knew the truth. Not yet. Not until the recording surfaced. The Coast Guard office received a strange, corrupted radio transmission at 3:14 a.m. A deep static buzz filled the air as the old machine clicked on by itself. The tape rolled, though no one had touched it. Voices crackled through, distorted, panicked, and then they recognized it. Ion's voice, weak, drowned, fighting through layers of seawater and static. "If anyone hears this, don't come, don't look at the water. It's alive, it watches." A long, wet, dragging sound interrupted him. Metal scraping, chains tightening, like something massive shifting inside the ship. Another voice joined the transmission. Broken, choking, echoing Hassan. We never left the ship, it won't let us die." Behind them, dozens of voices whispered in unison, like a choir of drowned souls humming from underwater. "Join us," the tape screeched violently as if something tore through the microphone. Then silence, until a low horn blasted through the speakers, so sharp and deep that it shook the office windows. The transmission ended, or so they thought. The next morning, the Coast Guard went to investigate, but the small office was empty, chairs overturned, papers soaked. The radio was still on, microphone dripping seawater onto the floor, forming a dark puddle. On the wall, someone, or something, had carved a message in deep, wet grooves. "The DROWNED star is coming." Outside, the villagers gathered near the shore. The fog had returned, thicker than ever. And from within it came the unmistakable clang of chains, slow, heavy, approaching. The water near the beach turned pitch black, not dark, not deep, black, as if ink had replaced the sea. Figures appeared in the fog, tall, broken, dripping. One of them walked at the front. Ion, but not as they knew him. His skin pale as drowned flesh, eyes glowing blue like the dead crew. Saltwater poured endlessly from his mouth as he raised a trembling arm and pointed toward the town. Behind him, the massive silhouette of the drowned star emerged from the fog, towering, impossible, metal groaning like a beast waking from a nightmare. Its horn echoed again, long, hungry, vibrating through every bone. The villagers froze as Ion spoke, voice layered with dozens of drowned souls. "We sail tonight," and the fog swallowed the town, forever.